the Energy Boutique with your energy forecast for September 2023. So on September 29th, we have our last astro event for the month taking place, which is a bit of a doozy, seeing as we're going to have our full moon take place in Aries energy. So first we have to understand that this is considered the harvest moon, the first moon event, kind of right after the equinox, which this would be, is the harvest moon. This is when we are kind of reaping the rewards, if you will, when we're kind of stepping back and seeing what it is that we've done over the first half of the astrological calendar. And now we are making some quote unquote judgments in what it is that needs to be balanced out, what we need to grow upon, what we need to improve. And if you're kind of saying, well, geez, that really sounds like, the equinox karmic scales being reset, you would be right. This is a very, very interesting time for the collective. We have jumped timelines. We are opening ourselves up for new karmic chapters, new soul contracts. And this particular full moon is kind of a unique one, considering the fact that, yes, it is taking place on this Aries and Libran axis that, of course, the nodes of the moon are currently on, trying to teach us some karmic lessons. However, this is not an eclipse. This is just a normal Joe type of full moon in Aries, but what this is doing is providing us with a boiling point, a pressure point, if you will. This is going to be acting as the catalyst for some major changes that are needed, especially affecting our relationship dynamics. So the full moon is always a time where it illuminates new information, new details, a new perspective that we hadn't otherwise contemplated, seen, or had full awareness of. It is a particular point of tension, of conflict, of crisis, in order for us to realize what we're breaking away from, what we're bringing and ending a closure to, and what it is that we are now going to initiate out of the change that, of course, will be taking place. Now, a couple of things. First of all, we have to understand that this is a continuation from the eclipse energy that we had back at the beginning of this astrological year in Aries season. We also have to understand that this is under the new moon in Virgo cycle. And we also have to understand that this is the precursor to some karmic events that we will not have control over when we move into October and we actually have the new moon in Libra that happens to be a solar eclipse. So there's a lot to unpack. Now, considering the fact that we've been working very hard to kind of collapse the old version of self and some of the aspects in our reality and circumstances that the old version of self has built, and seeing as we've been trying very hard to kind of emerge and integrate this new version of self, it's been a struggle because, of course, we don't know who this version of self actually is, let alone how to fully express it. This full moon in Aries, definitely going to be the point in time where we are able to kind of let go of that old version of self and we are able to embody, align, integrate the new version of self a lot easier. Now, this is going to come out of a little bit of an explosion, a little bit of a tantrum, if you will, and considering the fact that Aries energy is the childlike energy of the zodiac, we can throw tantrums and go right back to normal in a very short amount of time, but it does have a ripple effect. And that ripple effect is going to carry us into eclipse season. And whatever happens under this full moon in Aries, which is likely going to be an emotional outburst, a tantrum of some sort, is going to kind of shake things up enough in order for us to break the mundane routine of how things have been going, especially in our relationship dynamics. Considering the fact that we're in Libra season, it's all about kind of finding balance, making peace, creating harmony within self, about the relationship dynamics, starting with the relationship of self and how that pours over into all relationships that we have outside of ourselves. The full moon in Aries is going to bring a peak catalyst energy for us to get a lot of things off of our chest, for us to get a lot of thoughts, ideas, emotions out of our physical bodies. And granted, we need a little bit of a shake-up, of a wake-up, in order to readjust the energy dynamics within our personal relationships. And trust me when I say that there is definitely going to be a significant marker under this full moon in Aries that is going to set us up for making some major changes as we move into October and as we kind of get sucked in to the eclipse energy that is going to sort us out and put us on the path that we failed to put ourselves on. So it's going to be a very interesting dynamic. Considering the fact that Mars, who rules over this Aries energy and ruler of this full moon, is in Libran energy, his weakest placement, we're definitely going to see an interesting dynamic play off at that particular point, seeing as we're stuck in the intellectual battlefield of trying to figure out the highs, the lows, the pros, the cons, everything in between of the action that we want to take. We can't take it, but we have to think about it. And this is why Mars is a little bit frustrated, I would say, a little bit not his best self. We also have a very interesting dynamic because we still have Mercury and Venus still in their post-retrograde shadow period. Now, granted, Mercury is going to clear his post-retrograde shadow period the minute that we move into October. Venus will clear her post-retrograde shadow period on the 8th when she moves into Virgo energy. Of course, I'll have a whole October energy forecast coming at you here very shortly. But I think it's important to understand that our headspace, Mercury, and our heart space, Venus, still kind of sitting in a level of confusion. Still really trying to wrap our minds around what has already taken place, already transpired. And there's going to be some interesting dynamics to kind of explore here. We do have a lot of, I'm going to say, Earth energy still kind of dominating these particular moon events, which means that we really have to see major changes and transformations in our physical realm. Now, download your moon guide if you haven't already. You'll see the elemental energy profile in that moon guide to really kind of, piece together what it is that we're dealing with here, what it is that we're working with. And because Aries energy is about the egoic identity of self, and the Libran energy is the relationships that we have outside of ourselves, we need to strike a pretty particular balance in honoring ourselves, our own wants, needs, and desires, while still honoring the wants, needs, and desires, the commitments that we've made to other people, which is a very hard thing to do, especially seeing how the karmic lessons that we're in right now on this Aries and Libran axis is pushing us to stop being so interconnected, intertwined, influenced by other people's thoughts, opinions, and energies in order for us to stand on our own 2 feet. Now, we really need to get to know thyself very quickly and be very strong and stable of knowing who it is that we are, the energy, the vibration that we carry without being influenced by other people around us. This is going to be very important, especially moving into 2024. We're really going to need to have a very strong sense of self. The Aries energy is pushing us to be a little bit more aggressive and assertive, to do what it is that we have to do for ourselves. While the Libran energy constantly wants us to compromise and self-sacrifice in order to do what is best for the partnership, for the team, for the group. Regardless of which way you look at it, the relationship dynamics are changing. That's just something that we have to accept, because when the relationship with yourself changes, that again spills over and has a major effect on the relationship dynamics that you pour into outside of yourselves. Now, this is going to be a 6-degree full moon event, which is a pretty fresh and new chapter, if I do say so myself. And this is why I say that those of us that have been struggling to kind of emerge as this brand new version of self, going to have a beautiful opportunity to do so under this full moon in Aries. And a lot of the emotional outbursts or tantrums that many of us will be having is the old remnants of needing to fit into the construct of the old version of self that other people in our environment want us to stay in. It's very hard to emerge as a new version of self, make any kind of changes or transformations to thyself in an environment that, technically speaking, your old self had built. This is why when you try to change and you try to kind of create new boundaries in relationship dynamics, you see very quickly who is willing to meet you halfway and who is willing to step all the way back and sometimes all the way out of your life, because they can no longer get what they want from you with you having strong boundaries. Now, the people-pleasing aspect that comes up with the Libran energy is going to be front and center because, again, we've been taught that putting our own wants, needs, and desires ahead of everybody else's is selfish. Well, depending on your comprehension and understanding of that particular word, I can see where some people get confused. But when you understand that you need to be the version of yourself, you need to be the change that you want to see in the world, that you need to be vibrating at a frequency of pure authenticity in order to help, support, better the collective consciousness, then that really puts a different type of perspective on what it means to be all about yourself, right? You really have to know who you are. You have to stand very firmly in that vibration of the frequency in which your individualized God source self designed you to be here in this earthly realm. So it's going to be a very interesting dynamic. And I would say, because of all the planets still retrograde, most of them, of course, very heavy hitting planets. So there's some very karmic lessons that the collective is learning here. I would say that this is going to be a major point pivot of change where we are moving away from the old, where we are bettering ourselves, where we are leveling up, where we are emerging as new parts of this new version of self. And therefore, we are getting the party started on taking the initiative, blazing the path moving forward in order for us to really follow what it is that we need to pursue for ourselves, for our soul's mission, our soul's potential, our soul's evolution. Now, that doesn't mean that we're cutting everybody else off. Doesn't mean that we're going to be mean to other people or not be considerate to other people, but it does mean that we have to kind of tweak the energetic exchange that we have in our personal relationship dynamic. So there's definitely a lot going on, especially at this particular point in the calendar. We just entered into a new karmic playing field. This is the full moon that's going to kind of rattle all of those heavier weighted parts of self that we no longer need. It's going to rattle all of that to the surface in order for us to get it out, to purge, to release, so that we can start moving forward on a path that is more aligned to our authentic selves, to our higher selves, to this new version of self. So it's going to be a very potent energy. Of course, it's a cardinal energy, so we're initiating and starting something new. It's a fire energy, which cleanses the old by kind of burning it down, seeing where it is that we got to burn through old cords connecting us from the old version of self and the old circumstances in which old self has created. And from that fire brings a new passion, a new spark, a new life force energy that we will be carrying on in this karmic chapter and taking all the way into eclipse season. So you will want to check your chart. You will want to see where Aries energy rules over. You will want to see where 6 degrees of Aries energy is, if there's any kind of placements that are being activated, natal placements in your chart, of course. It's going to have a major impact on what it is that you're initiating, what it is that you're kind of starting here. And we really just need to see where this is going to have the most impact on your particular life, which you can, of course, tell from your chart. So although I would say that we have to be very mindful of this emotional blowout, this emotional tantrum, if you will, we kind of do need to lean all the way into it. Now, of course, like exercise sense, like common sense. We're not going to war here. We don't want to create that type of energy. However, we have to go to war for ourselves, so to speak. And there is a certain amount of emotional expression that we need to sit in, that we need to express and get outside of our bodies in order to clear up the space, if you will, and allowing there to be space for this new version of self to kind of take the leadership role, to take over. So I'm going to say, get it out. Whatever energy is coming up in you, whatever emotions you need to get off your chest, get it out. Of course, do it in a very respectable manner, but we need to get this energy out of our body. We have to allow this particular, I'm going to say, catalyst point to be the point of the calendar in which there is a significant change. And heads up, there will be a resolution to this particular, I'm going to say, shit show, emotional shit show, be provided to us under the new moon in Libran energy, which again happens to be a solar eclipse, that we are definitely going to learn the hard way how this karmic chapter for the next 18 months is absolutely going to play out and impact us in moving forward. So again, I do recommend that you download your moon guide. That is the best way to move through these energies. Take a listen to September's zodiac forecast for your sun, for your rising, so that you know where this is taking place in your life, in your chart. And again, if you're familiar with kind of diving into your own chart, that is the best way to go to know how this is going to be very personalized for you. So I send you so much love. I ask you to really get to know yourself, to do right by yourself, to get whatever it is out of your body, off of your chest, out of your headspace, and declare what it is that you need to be doing for thyself.